Hi, welcome to this new DVD on layout. And in this, hi, welcome to my new DVD on layout. In this DVD, I'm going to go through a whole pile of different layout examples from my layout example book. And we'll talk about some of the different principles of layout and the things that are related to making a layout. So let's just start right in and we'll go through each individual one. There are 40 of them altogether. And I'll try and break this up into chapters so that we're not being bombarded with a huge amount of stuff. You may find that you want to go through this in short little snippets as opposed to watching the whole thing all the way through from beginning to end. You might just find it more comfortable to watch the chapter that you want to discuss. And in each chapter we'll talk about various things about layout and principles of composition and things like that. So hopefully, you know, it'll work out that you'll get a full amount of information that you're trying to get from layout from this DVD. So follow along with me and let's go. On this first test, this first layout, which is called the interior spaceship cockpit, you can see that I have my 3 thumbnail sketches here. We'll go through each of them individually and we'll talk about some of the various things about what I've done to set them up, and I have some more that I'll show, and then we'll show the final layout that I've chosen from the thumbnails into the final completion. So this first one here is basically what's called a 3/4 front view, where we're looking on a 3/4 angle, but it's also a slight down shot, meaning that we're looking down on the cockpit. And 3/4 simply means that we're not looking straight on at the side of the cockpit, we're looking slightly towards the front. This is sort of a typical type of a layout that you would see for this type of an environment. But the limitations on this one are that you don't get a full view of where the character is actually, well, not necessarily a full view of the character, because you do see a full view of the character in a 3/4 front view. I guess one of the things about it is that it's not as inviting. It's more of a voyeuristic type of a thing. And that's what you'll find with 3/4 views of characters in a 3/4 down shot as well, is that you're not really engaged in the environment. Usually with a layout, you try and set up your horizon line so that it's roughly at about the character's eye level. That way you feel like you're in the same environment with the characters on their level. So in this case here, we're looking at a 3/4 down shot, which sort of alters the point of view of it. Now in this one here, the other thing to note is that it is a 2-point perspective setup, meaning that we have 2 vanishing points. One vanishing point is off the page here to the side quite a bit, and the other one is off on this side over here with a very high horizon line as well, which makes it a slight down shot. In this next view, we're seeing a very low horizon line. The horizon line is roughly in and around this area right here. And it's again a 3/4 front view, but it's favoring more of the straight on front view. You can see that the vanishing points are coming down very sharply to a point somewhere roughly in about here. Now the perspective has been cheated quite a bit. You can see how these 2 lines here are converging to a point roughly about there, and the seat down here is actually converging to a point that's somewhere further back at the back. And the same thing with the floor panels radiating down into the background this way, creates a vanishing point that's somewhere roughly in about that area there. So in essence, this is a 1-point perspective, but it's also been cheated into more of a fisheye lens type of view, where we're introducing the second vanishing point within the environment. The second vanishing point, you can see the lines radiating off in this distance, this direction over here, which are converging off to the side. So it's forcing something that should be a pure 1-point perspective into a 2-point perspective, and that's what sort of warps the background just slightly there. Now this is a good type of a shot if you're trying to set up something that's fairly dramatic, in that you want it to look like, you know, there's some impending danger or something like that that's taking place. Then you would cut to this type of a shot here. The same thing for this next one, where we're looking in more of an aerial view, looking straight down on the cockpit from above. Again, this would be for more dramatic purposes. And this shot here is a 2-point perspective, 2/1-point perspective view. but it's also got some components of three-point perspective within it as well. So let's take a look right now. You can see that the perspective for the back of the chair, along with the headrest right here, is radiating down, and you can lightly see the two lines there, coming down to a point roughly around here. The seat of the chair is coming back in perspective to a vanishing point that's somewhere just off the page there, and that's creating a two-point perspective. Now the horizon line for this environment is sitting roughly right about here, splitting the seat right in half, running this way, and so we're attaching our two vanishing points along that horizon line. Now the actual horizon line for the viewer in this case would be quite a bit a ways up this way, above the picture plane. And what we're doing is we're actually rotating our point of view so that we're looking down on the cockpit. And so that's why we're altering the horizon line for the vanishing points in order to make it look like this across here, in order to anchor our vanishing points to that horizon line. Now the three-point perspective issue comes into play when we're dealing with this plane across here. Now right now it has been cheated just very, very slightly. You can see the lines are sort of pinching in just a little bit here, and they're going off to a vanishing point in that direction. So while it really shouldn't happen that way, I mean, again, because it's sort of a thumbnail sketch, you're going to get these little variations in your layouts where they're not actually going to work to a pure two-point or three-point or one-point perspective. You have to cheat a little bit. And in this case here, it's primarily because it's a rough. Now, I hate saying that, because I've often said to my students, never use the phrase it's wrong, or the perspective is not quite right because it's a rough. That should never be a crutch excuse for bad perspective in a layout. Now, on the other hand, I'm trying to defend myself here a little bit in that it is a quick sketch, and you're not overly concerned about getting the perspective absolutely right. So there are, instances where you can get away with it, although I do chastise my students for doing that in some cases. So the third vanishing point is radiating off in this direction here, and we have the other two vanishing points coming over here and here. So that's more of a down shot point of view with a one-point perspective.